Hello folks, the world of Azeroth has for me always had one of the best realised open world environments of any MMO, rivaling most other open world RPGs. There are a ton of reasons for this, but one of them is the amount of effort that the dev team puts into filling out every nook and cranny of that world. Even when you wander off the beaten path of quests and open world events, there's always a ton of cool little details to explore and discover, many of which I suspect are completely missed by a large chunk of the player base. So I thought it could be fun to take a look at my top 10 hidden gems in the War Within. At number 10 is the Arathi book collection. This is a really cool toy which enables your character to take a sit down at a table and read a book. What book are they reading? Well, it's the Arathi book collection, of course. Obtaining this toy is pretty easy. You first of all need to collect a series of books that the good Arathi have managed to lose all over the zone. There is Pillarwater's Codex of Dimensional Structure, a pseudo-scientific speculation piece on the cosmos. Here and Feeding of the Imperial Lynx, instructions on how to train your lynx, which I guess will be quite handy for that lynx mount you got. Shadow Curfew Guidelines, just what you need to survive when Beledar turns to its void state. Beledar, the Emperor's Vision, a kind of history of how the Arathi got to Hallowfall. The Song of Renelash, the tale of the Arathi's belief in a final battle between void and light. And the Big Book of Arathi Idioms, which kind of explains some of the names of the towns of Hallowfall. Once you've got all those books, you take them to Rufus' Sacred Pyre in Mereldar, and he will give you a series of riddles that you can answer based on the contents of those books. Now, you can just read a guide for the answers to the riddle, and I'll put a link down below, but he does only offer the riddles once you collect the books, so you do need to go round and get them first. At number 9, we have the Rats of Undermine. Now, if you have the Galagio campfire scene, you will have already encountered some of the more friendly Rats of Undermine, but were you paying attention enough to notice that when you interact with one of those rats, they jump on your shoulder and take a ride for a few minutes? At number 8 are the Peons of Undermine, one of the most meme-worthy groups on Azeroth. The Orc Peons are back. Head over to the Bilgewater headquarters in Undermine, and upstairs you'll find this fine fellow on his lunch break, who in true Peon fashion is quite happy to share his opinion of his work. I guess the goblins must be paying him a decent copper to get his services, right? Or maybe not. It is said that armies march on their stomachs, but I guess Orc Peons also work in theirs too. Now, I wonder where I can find one of those burgers. At number 7 is the Hallowfall Infirmary. If you did all of the side quests in Hallowfall, this will not be very hidden, as helping out with healing an injured Arathi is part of that quest line. But we don't need to stop at healing just one injured. Even when not on that quest, you can pop by and help heal the fallen. And if you really fancy playing a medic a bit, there's even an achievement to earn. And number 6 is the Earthen Memorial Plaques. While the Earthen of Khaz Algar are fairly mechanical even in their speech patterns, it does not mean that they don't have feelings. And it turns out they are quite a sentimental bunch, with the failure of the awakening machine meaning that the Earthen lost the ability to be recharged and restored. They started to face a fate where they would eventually turn into inert stone statues, and some would choose to travel to their favourite spot in the area to meet their end. That though does not mean that they would end up lost and forgotten, as their former friends and even colleagues would often take on the duty of looking after what in effect became memorial statues. And all around the ringing deeps and out of the way places, you can find Earthen who have little memorial plaques to read. For number 5, we're heading down into the depths of Azj-Kahet to meet the Exiled Spiders. Azj-Kahet, of course, isn't the first time that we have encountered Nerubians, whose existence in the Warcraft franchise goes all the way back to Warcraft 3, where the great civilization of Azjol-Nerub in Northrend fell to the might of the Lich King. It turns out that the Nerubians of Azjol-Nerub sought help from Azj-Kahet, and we can still find a few of those Nerubian envoys eking out a living around the edges of Azj-Kahet, and you can even speak to them to discover the rather tragic story. At number 4 is the Dalaran sewer rats and turtles. In both Wrath of the Lich King and Legion, the underbelly of Dalaran, essentially its sewer network, formed home to no end of ne'er-do-wells, including those members of the Alliance and Horde who did not want to obey the strictly enforced faction cooperation that was required above ground. For those brave souls who did venture down there, the turtles and sewer rats were originally just a bit of flavour. But with the destruction of Dalaran, it turns out that both of them have managed to survive, and the rat is now looking for a new home. And who best to give him a home but the biggest champion of Dalaran? You can find the Dalaran sewer turtle in the Isle of Dorn, and talking to it will give you a little clue that it would appreciate a meal of golden gill trout. Catch one of those trout and bring it back to the turtle and it will wander off. Head over to Dornogal and you'll find them hanging out with all their pals. Talk to the rat again and he'll quite happily join your pet collection. At number 3 is the Food Vendors of Undermine. Remember that Peons burger? Well, it turns out that Undermine may well be known for its street food. Almost as soon as you leave the station area in Undermine, and you'll start running into food vendors, and it turns out that they are everywhere. These vendors are remarkably cosmopolitan, offering not only unique to Undermine food, including those all-important burgers, but also a range of foods from other areas, including Morlocco's tacos, which can only be otherwise found in Nazjatar. And it's not just its street food. As you progress the story in Undermine, you'll even find yourself helping out one aspiring cook. And fans of shipping and handling will have already spent quite some time distributing food over at Blackwater Marina. At number 2 are all the hidden passages of Dornogal. The main drag of Dornogal with its player amenities is of course very familiar to all of us. It may not have the atmosphere of something like Dalaran or Boralis, but it's still a pretty decent place to hang out. But that main drag is actually a pretty small part of what is a fully realised Earthen city, and if you head off from the main area, you'll start to find all sorts of little nooks and crannies to explore. One of the most fun are the passages that allow you to ascend up to Stonewood's Rise. In one of the side quest lines in Isle of Dorn, you are introduced to the hidden office of one of Steelvane's business rivals. But explore a little further and you will find where the rogues of Dalaran have taken up residence following the loss of their secret lair in Dalaran's sewers. And I guess Millhouse Manastorm ain't too good at card games. And at number 1 is every Azerothian champion's best friend, the faithful dog. If you played Black and Mists of Pandaria and fully progressed your Tiller's farm, you may well remember your faithful dog. Get to midway through Revered Reputation with the Tillers and you can find a lost dog in the Valley of Four Winds with a quest to bring him some food. Help him out and he will come and take up residence on your farm. And I guess you must have been a really good master for your dog, as when you headed off to another world in Draenor, provided you rank up your garrison's herb garden, one day he will just turn up there. Now of course you're not going to abandon him in another reality, so you just had of course to lure him off of Draenor and back to Dalaran. And you do that by finding a pebble lying in the streets of Dalaran. Take that to the dog and he will follow you, taking up residence in the pet shop in Dalaran. Sadly, when we moved into BFA, I guess he liked the pet shop so much that he just decided to stay there. But with the fall of Dalaran, he's going to need our help again. Scout around the remains of Dalaran and you will find a half-buried pet bowl. Interact with it and it turns out to be the dogs, who will be very glad to see you. Pet his head and he'll now become your faithful companion by joining your pet collection. And that's it, my personal top 10 hidden gems from the War Within. But what about all of you? Have you made any cool discoveries in Khaz Algar, or have I inspired you to go off and go exploring? Let me know in the comments down below. If you found this video fun, informative, or just plain annoying, then do hit that like icon to let me know. And if you'd like to make sure that you find out whenever I release a new video, or just want to support my channel, then do hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. All your likes, comments, subs, and even just viewing my video right through to the end helps my channel to reach a wider audience, and that growth will enable me to keep making more. And for that, you have my thanks. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.